Welcome to Across the Pitch, where we're serving up more drama than your family's holiday dinner. And trust me, after today's action, we've got enough spice to last us well into 2025. Speaking of spice, let's kick things off with Liverpool's absolute demolition job at the London Stadium. Arne Slot's red machine is running smoother than a freshly waxed Ferrari, putting 5 past West Ham in a display that had everything but mercy. Let me paint you a picture of just how dominant they were. The Hammers looked beaten before the first whistle, and things only got worse from there. Luis Diaz kicked off the party with a finish powerful enough to make the net question its life choices, and from there, it was like watching artists at work. You want to talk about masterclasses? Mohamed Salah put on a show smoother than butter on hot toast. That assist for Gakpo's goal? Pure poetry in motion, the kind of footwork that should be hanging in the Louvre. He managed to nutmeg not one, but 2 defenders. It was like watching a magician reveal his tricks, except Salah kept the magic coming. And when he wasn't setting up goals, he was bagging them himself, his 20th of the season, might I add. The scary part? They're now 8 points clear at the top, and they're making it look easier than a Sunday morning stroll. But here's what's really fascinating about this Liverpool side. It's not just about the front 3 anymore. Trent Alexander-Arnold's playing like he's got a joystick controlling the ball, pinging passes around like he's playing FIFA on easy mode. That 4th goal? A deflection, sure. But the technique to even attempt that shot from range shows you the confidence flowing through this team right now. And let's talk about that midfield. With players like McAllister and Gakpo finding their rhythm, it's like watching a symphony where every instrument knows exactly when to chime in. And while we're on that note, let's dive into what might be the biggest story of the season: Nottingham Forest's incredible rise. Remember when people thought Nuno was a sideways step from Steve Cooper? Well, those same folks are now watching Forest sit second in the table, playing football that's more entertaining than your favorite Netflix series. Chris Wood's transformation has been particularly remarkable. He's gone from being written off as past his prime to scoring goals with the regularity of a Swiss watch. The way he exchanged headers with Elanga before that lofted finish over Pickford? Pure poetry in motion. Smoother than a con artist's sales pitch. 5 wins in a row now, by the way. But it's not just about Wood. Morgan Gibbs-White is captaining this side with the authority of a seasoned veteran, threading passes through gaps smaller than your average parking space in London. The way Forest are organized defensively, just 19 goals conceded in 19 games, it's tighter than my budget after Christmas shopping. They're making the impossible look routine, and that's what great teams do. The question now isn't whether they can avoid relegation. It's whether they can maintain this form and genuinely challenge for European spots, or, dare I say, even more. Now let's switch gears and talk about the elephant in the room: Manchester City's continuing struggles. Pep Guardiola's 500th game in charge turned into more of a survival mission than a celebration. Sure, they scraped past Leicester with goals from Savinho, his first ever City goal. Shocking, right? And Haaland. But they're sitting 5th, a whopping 14 points behind Liverpool. Remember when City losing 2 on the bounce was headline news? Now they're celebrating scrappy wins like they've won the Champions League. It's a bit like watching a heavyweight boxer trying to find their rhythm after taking a few too many hits. How did Vardy not score in this match? Crazy. The chances Leicester had, and they just couldn't convert. The most telling moment came in Pep's post-match interview. When asked about the title race, he flat out admitted there was no chance. More shocking than finding out your vegetarian friend secretly loves bacon. This is the same Pep who usually keeps his cards closer to his chest than a poker champion. The stats tell a story too, just 2 wins in their last 10 league games. That's not a blip anymore. That's a trend shakier than a Jenga tower in an earthquake. Meanwhile, over in North London, Spurs are doing what Spurs do best, keeping their fans' blood pressure higher than a rocket launch. That 2-2 draw with Wolves was peak Tottenham under Postecoglou. Going behind, fighting back, Son missing a penalty, taking the lead, which, let's be honest, that second Spurs goal, whoo, the build-up play, my goodness, Postecoglou must have been smiling, only for them to concede late. It's like they're following a script written by a drama addict. But you know what's more predictable than a Spurs roller coaster? Their ability to concede first at home. They've done it 15 times in 2024, which is more times than I've kept my New Year's resolutions. Special mention to Wolves' free kick goal, though. God, what a routine. Their second was also a banger as well. Speaking of roller coasters, let's talk about that thrilling draw between Fulham and Bournemouth. If you ever needed proof that the Premier League is the most entertaining league in the world, this game was Exhibit A. Raul Jimenez continued his renaissance with another goal. He's now level with Chicharito as the highest scoring Mexican in Premier League history. But just when Fulham thought they had it in the bag, up steps Dango Ouattara with a finish so cheeky it should come with a warning label. The way he dinked it over Leno? Smoother than your barista's best latte art. And speaking of art, let's appreciate the masterpiece that Bournemouth are creating under Andoni Iraola. When they appointed him, eyebrows were raised higher than a teenager's phone bill. Now, they're sitting sixth, playing football that would make Picasso jealous. The beautiful thing about both these teams is how they're quietly going about their business. Bournemouth in sixth, Fulham in eighth, both unbeaten in 7 games. It's like they've been taking notes from a ninja manual on how to climb the table without anyone noticing. Though with the football they're playing now, the secret's definitely out. Now let's hop across to Italy, where Serie A is serving up some action spicier than your Nana's Arrabbiata. At the San Siro, Milan and Roma played out a 1-all draw that had more tension than a first date. Tijani Reinders opened the scoring with a finish sweeter than tiramisu, showing why Milan's midfield rebuild is starting to click. But you can never count out Roma when you've got Paulo Dybala in your team. The pass and his volley was the kind of technique they should teach in football academies. The drama didn't stop there, with Paulo Fonseca, the coach, getting sent off faster than an Italian drinking his morning espresso. News is he might be getting the sack soon. Even Tammy Abraham made his return against his parent club. Talk about your plot twists. But if you thought that was dramatic, the Juventus-Fiorentina clash was like watching an opera unfold on a football pitch. Kefren Thuram, and let me tell you, he's making the famous family name proud, grabbed himself a double that had more quality than a vintage Chianti. The way he's transformed Juve's midfield is remarkable. It's like watching a young Edgar Davids with better hair. But Fiorentina, oh boy, they weren't about to lie down. Moise Kean, facing his old club, scored with the kind of conviction that makes you wonder why Juve let him go in the first place. And just when you thought the drama was over, up steps Ricardo Sotil with a volley so sweet it could have been dessert at a Michelin-starred restaurant. Sorry, Cambiaso. I feel for you. A slip at that time will always be punished. Over in Naples, we witnessed what might be the turning point in Napoli's season. Raspadori, who hadn't scored since April, longer than it takes to perfect a proper carbonara recipe, came off the bench to be the hero against Venezia. But the real drama came earlier when Romelu Lukaku had his penalty saved. Now, get this. The only previous Serie A penalty the Belgian failed to convert was against Lecce for Roma in November 2023. You couldn't script it better if you tried. The win puts Napoli joint top with Atalanta, making the title race tighter than your Italian grandmother's secret recipe book. And just when you thought Italy had run out of drama for the day, Udinese and Torino served up a 4-goal feast that had more flavor than a traditional Sunday lunch. Isaac Toure, all 6 feet and 9 inches of him, opened his Serie A account with a finish more delicate than you'd expect from the league's tallest outfield player. When Lorenzo Luca made it 2-0, it looked like game over. But Che Adams? Mamma mia. The man turned the game on its head faster than a pizza chef flips his dough. His goal and assist for Richie completed a comeback more impressive than finding parking in Rome during rush hour. The tactical battles in these games were fascinating too. Watching how Milan tried to contain Dybala was like seeing a chess grandmaster at work. They managed it for about as long as a chocolate gelato lasts on a summer's day in Rome. And Juventus's approach against Fiorentina's high press? More calculated than an Italian tax return, with Thuram acting as the perfect escape valve in midfield. Speaking of comebacks, Crystal Palace's turnaround against Southampton was smoother than a jazz saxophone solo. Is Eberechi Eze finding his groove again? That's the kind of storyline that warms your heart more than a cup of hot chocolate on a winter's evening. Let's dive into some tactical talking points that caught my eye this weekend. Forest's defensive setup is fascinating. They're not just parking the bus, they're reinventing how the bus is parked. The way they transition from defense to attack is smoother than a hot knife through butter, with their midfield moving like a well-oiled machine. And that Chris Wood goal? The kind of finish that makes you wonder if he's been taking private lessons from Alan Shearer. Liverpool's press deserves a special mention too. The way they hunted in packs at the London Stadium was more coordinated than a synchronized swimming team. West Ham couldn't string 3 passes together without finding a red shirt breathing down their necks. It's one thing to have a tactical plan. It's another to execute it with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker. Looking ahead to the next few weeks, we've got some mouth-watering fixtures that could shake up this title race more than a bartender making cocktails. Liverpool get to host Manchester United, and let me tell you, that's going to be spicier than a Vindaloo curry. Forest face an easy game against Wolves. We'll soon see if this fairy tale has the legs to go the distance. Speaking of distance, let's talk about the gap between first and fifth. 14 points might sound like a canyon wider than the Grand Canyon itself, but remember what happened in 2012? City made up 8 points in 6 games to win it all. Mind you, that was a different City team, one that played with the confidence of a peacock at a fashion show, not the nervous energy we're seeing now. The beautiful thing about football is its unpredictability. It's like British weather multiplied by a lottery draw. Just when you think you've got it figured out, along comes a result that turns everything on its head. Could Forest actually maintain this push? Will City find their mojo again? Can anyone stop this Liverpool steamroller? These aren't just questions. They're the storylines that'll keep us glued to our screens right through to May. And here's a prediction that's bolder than wearing a Hawaiian shirt to a funeral. I think we're going to see at least one more major twist in this title race. Whether it's Forest continuing their miracle run, Arsenal finding another gear, or City remembering their, well, City. This story's got more chapters left than a Charles Dickens novel. That's all for today's roundup, folks. The Premier League and Serie A are serving up more plot twists than a mystery novel, and we're here for every single one of them. Remember, in football, like in life, it's not about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get back up. Unless you're West Ham today, in which case maybe staying down was the safer option. See you next time, when we'll have more drama, more goals, and hopefully more of Pep Guardiola's interesting post-match fashion choices. This is Across the Pitch, over and out.